We're good to go. You good to go, Pat?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. This is the GPL podcast, sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now, here's Jupe and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 179. Getting close to 200, Vigs. It's nice.
Well done. Well done. You do all
We're
the work.
Getting there.
Like Pat was saying, we just talk.
Pat? What do you mean, Pat?
Yeah,
we've got Pat Micheletti on the podcast this week. Pat, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's my pleasure, guys. For my first time.
Yes, your first time. We've talked.
We talk about the past 3-4 years. Been waiting. The call came, and I answered. No, it's great to join you guys.
Well, when we started doing the Zoom thing, I thought it was going to be better for having guests on. So,
Yep.
It better having to have just people, just it's just easier and not to outdo you, but this is your first time. And on Sunday, we're getting Wally Shaver on the podcast as well.
I'll pray for you.
Well, it's okay if Wally drops an F-bomb because this is a podcast.
Here, all right.
Go ahead.
I like to poke fun at Wally and all in good nature. But ask him about after the first Penn State game on Thursday evening, how it was getting out of the parking lot. Okay, ask him about that.
All
right.
Was the card thing not working and wouldn't let him out? George, should we just ask him?
I don't know. I think he was in there. I asked him, quite frankly, if he stayed overnight, to be quite honest. And he may have. He said he got out. I don't know if he walked home or left his car. I don't know. So you're going to have to ask him.
Frank, come help me. Frank, come help me.
That's exactly. I got a text from Frank saying, you're not going to believe it.
Oh,
I said, yep, I believe it. I believe it.
Well, Frank is a veteran of the show. We had him on podcast. He has been on. He was been on 8 times. He was on podcast number 2, our first guest ever on the podcast, back in 2010, I believe it was. So Frank is definitely a veteran of the podcast, and now we're getting the rest of you cool people on.
Well, Wally. I tell you what, there's not many better than Frank. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, he's been a great guest for us. I mean, he's always rock solid, and he also brings that broadcast feeling for everybody, which is really
next time
nice
he doesn't know how to make spaghetti sauce, but I'm trying to help him, and he knows it, and but we'll keep working on him.
Shots fired.
You might want to mention that to him the next time you have him on. I'm all full of fun stuff tonight, guys.
Hey, we're here to get you riled up. It's
all right.
It's more fun that way.
Yeah,
it's way more fun that way. But what's fun, Vigs? This team is undefeated so far. 4-0, pretty solid start. I see a bunch of questions coming in, from Twitter and in the chat. I'm feeling pretty good about this team. How are you feeling about it so far?
I don't want to pump the brakes too much, but they have played 2 of the more inexperienced teams that they'll face on their schedule. I think it matched up perfectly for Bob's team to get their feet wet. He's got returning depth through center, first line through fourth line. He's got guys he can count on to go out and win draws. That's why they're one of the top face-off teams in the country right now. The defensemen have come along faster than I expected. Brock Faber has just stepped right into being a college player, and you can count on him every night for 20 minutes, and he's going to deliver. And the goaltending has just been spectacular. LaFontaine's had a couple issues where he's gone for a little walkabout to play the puck, and he had one soft one that got through him, but he's only let in 4 goals in 4 games. And his save percentage is .961. So he's been dialed in, and he's a confident guy. He doesn't let things like that shake his confidence, and he's ready to make the next save. So when you look at those three things, this team's delivering.
The thing that, he started off with, Pat, was, maybe these are the lesser teams, but boy, the last 4 to 5 years, the lesser teams Minnesota has played, they've just struggled. They haven't just gotten the job done many times.
Yeah. For me, listen, early in the year, you need to gain confidence. You need to develop that swagger. I saw a bunch of the guys before the first game, and you know what? There was a different feeling that I got just from their mannerisms, and just the way they, the way they kind of felt about themselves, and I don't care who you're playing. You got to get off to a good start and feel good about yourself. And, there's a lot of things that they got to get better at. But, from what I saw in the first 4 games, and I mentioned this on the air, and something that we have not seen since Nate Schmidt, Mikey Riley, and that's guys who can get the puck and make one pass, tape to tape, and get the puck out of the zone, or beat a guy and get the puck out of the zone themselves. And when you can do that, that's going to take pressure off your own end. It's going to, it's going to get you up the ice quick. It's going to improve the pace of the game. And, I think that, to me, I thought that was the biggest difference I've seen in the last, 5-6 years.
It's a huge deal. And by the way, I see Frank has joined the chat in YouTube, and he says
Frank,
you do look, Pat looks better than he does on radio.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's good that Frank's listening. We're
yes.
glad you're listening. Well, VX, it's not like this team didn't come out unscathed this weekend. We did have a little bit of injury problem.
Yep, Brandon McManus picked up a knock. He had a collision with a Ohio State player at the end of the second period. I listen to the radio crew pretty frequently as I sync it up with the TV broadcast, and they spotted it right away that he went off the ice. It's something that's hard when you're watching on TV to pick up those things. When you're live in the arena, it's much easier to notice that stuff, see a guy go to the bench and go down the tunnel. And that's one of the reasons why I like listening to the radio guys when there's a TV broadcast, because they can be, taking a different perspective than everybody else. So watching for that, McManus didn't come back for the third period. And then the post game, Motzko showed that wasn't good news, but not bad news. And then this week he said he doesn't expect him to play in the Michigan State series, but maybe for Michigan, definitely after Christmas. And based on what I'm seeing on Instagram, McManus made the trip out to Michigan, we think. So he's an important player for this team. He's a player that really gives a lot of confidence, I think, to Walker and McLaughlin. Just his attitude to the game helps, I think, those guys stay relaxed and stay with it and not get frustrated. And I think he adds a lot to the power play. He's just kind of a slick guy who takes advantage of space.
And I and the one thing, and I think Frank and I were talking early in the Penn State game, second shift of the game, he came down and there was no question in his mind he was going to shoot the puck. And, instead of looking and try, and he has the ability, as we saw with a couple of his goals, he can shoot the puck, and he's got to get the mindset that he has to score. Okay. And, listen, I tell guys all the time, you know what, you got to be selfish. If you want to, if you shoot the puck well and you are a goal scorer, then you can't worry. I mean, your job is to score goals. And I think he has the ability to, he only had 9 a year ago, 17, I think the year before. I mean, this guy should get to 20. Yeah. In a normal season. Now, this isn't a normal season, but he has that ability, and he's older and he's been around. He knows the league, and it's time for him. If Minnesota's going to go anywhere, guys, Yes, love the young players, and love the depth, love the strength up the middle, but they're older guys. Reedy and McManus, uh, Sample Ranta, guys like that are really going to have to, step up. Walker is another one, and I think he's got more in him. At least I hope he does. But those are the guys that are really going to have to carry the mail.
And that's kind of what we've talked about so far this season is those guys, those sophomores to juniors and what have you, this, freshmen to sophomores really need to pick it up. And,
Yeah.
Matsko talked about that. He said, hey, we need those guys to step up another 10, 15 goals or whatever it may be, but we need them to step up another level, Viggs.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for these guys to be consistent point of game players. When you're going to be an elite team, you need guys who can be in the score sheet almost every night. And I think Scott Reedy of this group might be the most consistent guy.
Been their best player.
He generates offense in the zone every game. A lot of these other guys, they depend on rush scoring. When you're playing against a good sound team like they're going to face in Michigan State, there's not going to be a lot of rush opportunities for your speedy, skilled guys to generate offense. You need guys who can score with possession in the zone or on the power play. And so you need guys who can possess the puck, take it to the net, draw penalties as they battle in the corner and win pucks. And Scott Reedy right now is really doing a nice job of that. We need some of these other forwards to start seeing that and emulating that in the game. Sample Ranta, he is one of the most tremendous athletes on the roster, but there's another level there for him to hit production wise.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the word another level, because it kind of correlates when you make that jump, okay, from a sophomore to a junior, and all of a sudden, you're being counted on, right? And it takes a while for that light switch to go, okay, if we're going to win, I've got to produce, not just tonight, but every night. And I'll take you back to when I was a freshman. I had on our team, we had Bukestead, Butsy Erickson, Steve Griffith. They were our guys. They knew it. They knew that if they didn't produce every night, we weren't going to win. I mean, we had a good team and, other guys chip in, but chipping in is different than carrying the mail every night. And it takes, it's got to click upstairs where you say, okay, I get it now. Okay. Tonight I can't take a shift off. I can't take a night off. I can't take a period off. I've got to be that guy. And it as a player, once you start to, understand a little bit more. And I think I see it in Reedy right now. I mean, I think he's been terrific and I think he's wanted it. And, and it's shown in the way he's playing.
Well, Steve, Viggs, you kind of mentioned it earlier, how the radio team, at least this past weekend, got to see more of the ice because the TV are broadcasting by looking at a screen. This weekend, it kind of will switch hands here, won't it, Pat? I don't know if are you calling this weekend?
No, I'm not. I will only be working the home games. So even though the guys are going to be calling the game from TCF Stadium, they will do those, and I'll just work the live home games.
Gotcha, and that makes sense. But I do feel for them though, because now it's going to be all of a sudden, Wally's calling the game, and his vision just went from this huge thing to this.
Yeah.
And, and Viggs talks about how he loves listening to the radio broadcast and how they can just see wider things because now the television broadcast has this same kind of tunnel vision. It's going to be tricky this weekend for, Wally and Frank to kind of bring the game to us. Don't you think?
Well, I think, both those guys are pros. They've been doing it a long time. Listen, of course it's going to be a change. but I think by, 10 minutes in, they'll kind of get their feel, and, should be another good broadcast.
And I think one of the things is they get a lot of history with the program, the players,
Yep.
the coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and those conversations, while they're less frequent this year, still start to come together.
Yep.
And you get a pulse of the team, and you find out what the coaches are thinking as they head into this series. I know Michigan State, from things I've read on their side, they're looking to be real physical with Minnesota.
Yep.
They're going to try to slow the Gophers down. And I think Bob's a little worried about that. He mentioned that after one of the early series here as they came to a close. He said, it's nice to play these games at Mariucci. We'll see how our young guys do on a smaller rink against a physical team. And that's what we're going to see this week.
Yeah. But you know what? That's where you grow. That's where you grow as a team. And you kind of find out what kind of character you have, and who can I play in these tough situations, right? I mean, you got guys fighting for spots still. You look at that right side, he's trying to find the right combination with Reedy and Ranta, and, he's had Walker and McLaughlin together, and, he's trying to find the right fit. And, I hate to say these are tryouts, but, guys are getting the opportunity, and everyone is getting a fair shake at it. You see Perbix going from the second line to the fourth line, or the extra forward, and Brodzinski starts at the top line, then he drops, and it wasn't because of the way they played. It was just, Bob's trying to find that right formula. And I think it's a brilliant move, because you've got to find a guy. See, for me, I always look at lines as two guys and then a third. And with no disrespect to the third guy, who ends up being probably the most important guy on your line. The guy who is going to go in the corners, do that dirty work, be able to get you the puck where you want it. Little things like that really connect a line and make them work.
Ben Myers comes to mind right when you said that to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ben Myers and Sorensen have been a pair. Like they feed off each other. Their style has been great together.
Mm-hmm.
Each line brings a little bit different, a little bit something different to it. And, you got Myers and Sorensen who bang and crash, and, really kind of ignite everybody. And, you got Reedy, who's just a horse, and you can't move him. And Ranta, at times he looks like, what are you doing in this league? You are in the wrong league, my friend. You should be one league up, and Sampo still has a lot to learn about, the game and where to be and how to navigate, and, gets off on the wrong highway sometimes, or wrong exit. But, they all bring a little bit something different, which is what you need on a team, actually.
Well, I think looking back, I remember Eric Halla being kind of like that.
Yep.
A lot of skill, a lot of speed, but he just didn't know how to navigate himself on the ice.
Right.
And then as he got older, all of a sudden it started to click. Instead of skating himself across the finish line, he skated to the finish line.
Right.
And he just made a lot more plays. And I think it takes a little bit of time, especially Ranta transitioning from Europe to the, American style.
I'll give you Sammy Walker too. Sammy, I get frustrated because the talent is immense, but he's got, in my opinion, just from watching him, he's got to learn how to navigate in and out of traffic, how to stay away from traffic, how to get into traffic, how to use his speed. He's so fast, but for a defender, in my opinion, simply my opinion, a lot of people probably think I'm wrong, but he's easy to defend if he's coming. Okay. And you can gauge how you're going to angle him, and, things like that. And in my opinion, if he would slow down a little bit, speed up a little bit, not use the same speed all the time, I think he'd be really effective. And you know what? He's still learning, but he has the ability to ignite a team too.
All of this just makes me more exciting because, a lot of these so much room to get better.
Yeah,
that's what makes me excited, because the skill is there. It's just putting it all together, and that's what's got me excited about this team this year. Is that we kind of haven't had that in a while.
we haven't, and you look at their up the middle. If you are strong up the middle, you got a pretty darn good team. And one guy we haven't talked about is Jackson Nelson. I mean, this kid, all right, doesn't know the talent that he has yet. And he can skate. He's big. He's strong. He can shoot the puck. I think he's got to get to a point where he trusts himself, because listen, he has the ability, like Aranta does, to just blow by a guy, or fend a guy off because he's so strong. But listen, he knows his role. He's playing on the fourth line. The fourth line has been really good. I don't know what Vigs, how many they have? 3 goals, something like that.
Yeah.
But not only that, he's a good penalty killer. And when you don't have to use your top guys, your scorers, killing penalties all the time, and he can go out there and do that, boy, that really helps a team and keeps everybody in the game too.
Yeah, I think that hurt them last year. Sometimes they get into these games where they'd start taking penalties, and then they lean on Myers so heavily. They lean on Walker so heavily, and they're spending all their energy killing penalties. Nelson is just that prototypical size and skill and face-off strength that you need for a penalty killer. And if he can fill that role this year, maybe they'll be able to feed him more onto his plate as he gets older and more experienced.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say we've got some Twitter questions I want to get to here.
All right.
Because quite a few of them from earlier today were kind of all along the same lines. We got Big Mistake saying, I'm curious how the players are adjusting to almost no fans. What are the challenges and maybe the benefits of this may bring to the game? And then I saw another tweet. Where was it? Yeah. Here we go. Tim Simplot, another big fan. With no fans in the stands, how much difference is there in the road games versus the home games? And Pat, we are seeing this. The road teams are doing very well right now because they're not going into hostile territory. You look at Notre Dame, went into Michigan, took care of them this weekend. Michigan just went into Happy Valley or Hockey Valley tonight and won. It's been all over this. Minnesota's kind of held court okay. But I see this as a much better evener for teams to come in and win on the road, and the road teams are doing very well.
Yep, there's advantages, disadvantages. One being at home, your own rink. You feel it's like being, it's like being in your living room, right? And you're comfortable and all that. I will tell you this. I don't care what anybody says. It is really, really hard to play in front of a empty stadium, because you have to individually, right? And now you're talking 21 guys of all having that same focus, getting your focus and staying in it, keeping your line mates together, and making sure they're ready, because you get one guy on a line who's maybe lollygagging a little bit, and throws everything off. And so I don't think it's easy for those guys at all. I thought they handled it well. I thought the pace of play was really good. It got a little sloppy in part of I think the third period of the first night against Penn State was not very good, for both teams. And, and you slow down and, and that's where you really, your hometown fans really give you a boost. Because when you're, when you need something and you hear them screaming, it gets you pumped up. There's nothing like it, nothing. And but I think they're adjusting well.
I think Bob talked about after the first weekend that there's so much pent up energy to play that series, especially the two teams that are playing each other. It was pretty easy for the players to get up and have the energy, maintain it. But he said as the Ohio State series went on, there was gut check time. When you have a lull in your play, the home team doesn't get that boost that they usually get. They've got to find it within themselves. And so as hockey season's pretty long, as the games go on, trying to sustain your own energy can be challenging. So in a game where maybe at home you don't have it, but the fans kind of get you that extra juice, that's not going to be there this year. You're going to have to find it on your own bench. And Bob has talked a little bit about, on the bench when things aren't going the right way and guys are kind of maybe bitching and moaning a little bit on the bench. There are leaders on the bench who are saying, hey, cut it out.
Yeah.
Let's focus. And that's an important sign, because you're not letting negativity get on your bench. You're maintaining that positive energy. And I don't know for sure, but I think in some of these past Gopher teams that haven't been successful, that's been allowed to happen.
Yep.
And that negativity can take over a locker room and be really poison.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And, and that's why, this winning helps. Because, it just, once you win, you get a taste of it. You get greedy. You get, you don't feel like you're going to lose. And, and now, it can be tricky because you just don't win games. You have to, no one just says, yep, you're going to win. You have to go and earn it and do it. And, but they feel like they can. And, right now that's a good thing. And, there's probably going to be a bump in the road or two, but, as long as they feel good about themselves, that's positive.
Well, that's a good sign. That's all I care about. We got more Twitter questions. I see a bunch of chat people.
Go.
I know I got a bunch of chat people asking, but first we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers, this is Jerry Peters from First Class Mortgage. Interest rates are near all-time lows and property values are on the rise. Lower your interest rate and remove monthly PMI at the same time to save thousands of dollars. Or use the equity in your home for debt consolidation and home improvement. The housing market is still hot, so make sure you're prepared by getting a pre-approval letter from me before you start shopping. Mention you heard about me on the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. Call me today at 612-940-3291 or visit firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. My NMLS number is 480200. First Class Mortgages is 322842. This is not an offer to lock into an interest rate agreement under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
Let's give Jerry a call, GPLers. Come on.
Well, I want to get back to Twitter real quick because a one Alex Micheletti is asking most improved Gopher so far.
Most improved. Well, that I'm going to go right back to Scott Reedy. Okay. Because I see, I watched him last year and, there were times where I'm like, come on, take that next step. You can beat this guy. No one's going to move you in front of the net. No one's going to stop you from coming out of the corner. And this year, I think he's in better shape. I think he's, I don't want to say faster, but skating stronger, and he's finishing. And so I think not only is he their most improved, but I also think he's been their best player.
You're muted, Vig. So make sure you plus together.
He's healthy too this year. I mean, I remember last year before he got dinged up, he's like, I haven't had a year since I was maybe a sophomore where I didn't have something that really held me down. And last year he was pretty healthy, and this offseason he was healthy, and it shows. He's a mature senior, a 6'2", 210-pound forward who led the team in scoring last year. You don't see too many of those come back for a senior year in the Big Ten, and he's showing it.
And you say, well, why are you calling him, leading scorer? Why do you call him the most improved player? Because his play is better. To me, I think he'll play at the next level. If you asked me that last year, I'm like, American League, probably. But I think he's really improved enough where, if he continues on and, is consistent, Gophers are lucky to have him back.
Tim Hapke says one which one player on this team has the brightest NHL future? When we probably all think Reedy does, but hey, Vigo, what other player besides Reedy has, a bright NHL future?
I'll take it this way. If I were to look at the player with the most potential to be like a top 6 NHL player, who has the skill to maybe get to that ceiling, it'd be Sampo Ranta. I mean, he does things on the ice that few players can do at that size and speed and skill and shooting. As he starts to put the pieces together, he's got a high ceiling. I don't think we've seen the total package with him yet. I think of all the players, he's got the most potential.
Okay, I'm going to give you 3.
Okay.
And they all will not be with the Gophers against Michigan.
Oh.
Okay. I think Johnson, I think Lacombe, and I think Faber. Well, I hope they're back next year. Put it that way. But the sleeper guy I'm going to throw in there is Ben Myers. I think a lot of NHL teams love him now. I think a lot of them wanted to sign him at the end of last year, just so he doesn't show more than what he is right now. He wins draws. He plays both ends of the ice. He can score a little bit, and he's a sleeper. But I love the 3D.
I think Benny Myers has got just almost surefire bottom of the lineup NHL skill. He will compete and he will not let you down any night. I don't know if he's got the brightest future, but he might have the most solid future. Like what you see with him is what you're going to get.
Fair enough. Yeah. You trust him, you trust him. And I tell you what, in the NHL, if you're, a third or fourth liner, you can, you're right. He probably won't be a top 6 guy, but he could play for a long time.
Yep.
All right. We got a Ted Schmanke asking, Pat, any hard feelings against Chris Chelios?
Yeah, I do. No, I tell you what a player, what a pro.
Yes.
And if you don't know the story, I'll tell you. My
Let's hear
freshman year, right? Somehow I got on the power play, and our defenseman shot it from the point, from the right side. I was on the left side, right on the pipe, and our D missed the net, and it came carrying out to me right in front, and I just tapped it in, right on the road in Dane County before 8,600 people, and I showboat might be a nice way to right in front of Chelios. He was not happy. And later on in the game, we had the puck in the Badger zone, and they cleared it out, and everyone is skating towards the Gopher net. And the refs were all looking one way. Every player was looking one way. Chelios was behind me. He tomahawked me right in the back of the leg. Ooh. And it's like I got shot. And I fell. I couldn't get off the ice. My foot was dead. And, they obviously had to help me off the ice and whatever. And I was out for 3 months, 2.5 months, my freshman year with drop foot. He damaged the nerve, didn't sever it. It was so swollen and that was not fun. But Chelly and I got to be good friends over the years, at different camps and so forth. But he was he was a all-star, great player.
He was a Wisconsin hack. Come on, just say it.
Always fun to beat the Badgers.
I would agree with that. It's something about them in North Dakota that, boy, it's always fun. Sometimes one team is way better than the other, but it seems like it's always close. I've got many, clips of both Frank and Wally, calling, North Dakota games and whatnot. and Wally saying what a bunch of cheap hose heads and things like that.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that I really haven't liked about this Big Ten thing is that we've lost North Dakota, where the game meant more. I mean, yes, we play them non-conference, but it's not the same as playing them for points and things like that.
Yeah, and back in the day, there weren't a ton of Minnesota kids that went there. I mean, the majority of their, especially when I was there at the U, and there's an awful lot of bad blood, awful lot, and we had some awfully rough games with them, and they were really good. They were really good my freshman year. And then the WCHA turned a little bit in terms of who were the top teams. Yep. All of a sudden Duluth got really good. And, for 3 years, our biggest rivalries were really Wisconsin and UMD. And, and North Dakota was, just in third in that category.
And to be honest, Pat, I really think it took off more with North Dakota during the 90s and 2000s.
Oh, without a doubt.
When Minnesota was on television. I mean, everyone said they kind of had their own network going for a long time, where they were the team in town, and people saw these games. It wasn't just going to the games. They saw them on TV. They saw everything. And I think that's what just brought that rivalry up even more than Wisconsin at the time.
Well, yeah, and they were better. They were better than Wisconsin probably at that time. And when and I don't know how, because I'm not around during the week as much. Back then, we had the Star Tribune, the Pioneer Press, the Daily, every paper going, and there were articles during the week, and there was radio, and the bad blood was building up all during the week until you got to Friday, and then you get to Friday night, and so there's a lot of buildup going into the series like that.
But you start looking now, Viggs, you look on the flip side, we need a healthy Wisconsin team. They've been down for quite a bit. We need Wisconsin to be back up there and to have that bad blood going again, don't we?
Yeah, you certainly need other rivals in your conference to be successful nationally. And you've seen Wisconsin have all these high draft picks come into their program, and we haven't necessarily seen a ton of results from that yet. He's trying to find the right formula for how to make them successful. He's gone really young and really talented, and that's fun to see, but it hasn't led to a lot of success on the ice. Michigan, on the other hand, I think they're on this trajectory of going up. You look at the talent they have that we won't see playing against the Gophers, but they're a program on the rise, and you're going to see that rivalry really start to escalate, I think.
Well, and listen, Tony Granato was a fierce rival of mine during our playing days, and Tony's a good coach. Take nothing away from him. I don't like his philosophy, and I'll tell him that to his face. Because listen, the guys that play at this level, the higher end guys, right, are going to make it to the next level. They are. But when you go to a school, you're playing for that school. You're not playing for the Minnesota Wild or the Montreal Canadiens or whoever. And what Tony likes to do is and maybe he's changed a little bit in that perspective, but he'll tell the guys, I'm here to get you ready for the NHL. And what he should be saying is, you guys are here to win a national championship, and focus on that. Don't be worried about your contract at the end of the year. And I think that's a problem that they've had. Unless that changes, I don't think their chemistry, their culture will change into a team that says, hey, we're committed. we're committed to winning, you know.
Pat, I wanted to throw one thing at you here. Obviously, we have a lot of fans still angry about the Big Ten and what happened to the WCHA. Yep. We on this show we've kind of said, it's done. You either are a fan of the Gophers or whatever, support the team. But one thing I do think that really did hurt the Big Ten was when it opened up. You had a freshman team in Penn State. You had a Wisconsin way down. You had a Michigan way down. I think that really hurt the league at first because, if you come into a new league and you've got a strong Michigan, you got a strong Wisconsin, you got a strong Minnesota, I think the excitement level would have been much higher, but they just kind of came in on a little bit of a whimper.
Well, I look at it like this. I think people, I never thought the league is bad. I never thought, I think the hockey's been good. Mm-hmm. But I think the perception and the thought, just like, we're mad. We're just mad. And then the NCHC gets formed and they say, they hype it and hype it and hype it. You talk to anybody, it's the best league in the world. Well, I don't think it's the best league in the world. Best league in college hockey. It's a good league. The top 4 teams in the league are really good. The bottom 4 teams in that league would have a hard time in the Big Ten. There's no doubt in my mind. I've seen every team. I know the depth that some of these teams have. It's a good league. It's a competitive, but they hype it. They hype it so much where, no matter if you've seen the league or not, everyone thinks it's the best. So I think the Big Ten will get the respect as we move forward a little bit. The teams are really good. Ohio State's got they're young, but they got a good team. Michigan's good. I mean, you got parity in the league, which I think is good. But I will tell you this, and I am upset. Okay, I think the powers that be need to be smarter in hockey. We're going to have 6 Division I teams in the state next year. There's no reason in my mind why they shouldn't be playing each other. If you want growth, if you want stadiums filled, if you want youth hockey players to aspire to stay in the state and play for one of these teams, I just it bothers me because we're smarter than that. We're not college football. We're not college basketball. We're college hockey, and I just think we need to be smart about it. There's my 2 cents. I got it off my chest.
Well, Veeks, I mean, he's definitely got a point. You know what? We need to be playing St. Thomas right off the bat, don't you think?
Darn right.
I mean, it's so simple. Caveman would do it, right? I mean,
yes.
You want to grow a regional game, you grow your regional teams. Hockey East, those schools are right next to each other. It's all built in. They stick together. ECAC, like schools, they all stick together. But everybody else, it's uncomfortable, and it hasn't been good for growing the game as much as.
Here's my point too. You got the Big Ten Network. Yeah, well, I get the Big Ten Network. Then you know what? You sit down with the Big Ten Network and say, you know what? Some of the games aren't very exciting, or they're not, but you're going to get to see Minnesota and St. Thomas, Minnesota, UMD, whoever it is, right? Mm-hmm. You can still have hockey. You can have a Big Ten team, and it just so happens the other team might not be a Big Ten team. Who cares? Work it out. I just think, can you imagine the rivalry between St. Thomas and Minnesota? St. Thomas, Mankato, St. Thomas, St. Cloud, UMD, St. Thomas. Every building would be packed every weekend, right? Every weekend.
Yeah.
you know, you've got plenty of TV opportunities here to cover the games. I just think it'd be great. But you know what? I'm just me.
And Josh Fenton's done a good job with his league. You know, the top teams in their league, they've done a good job.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking Josh Fenton. You know, I'm not knocking, you know, but you know what? The powers that beat the NCAA should figure it out, in my opinion. And
yeah.
you know, and here's the deal. I talked to all these coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the state school coaches, all that. You know, do you think Miami of Ohio really and Western Michigan really want to be in the NCHC and have to fly to Duluth and St. Cloud and blah blah blah? You know, no, they don't. They want to be in the CCHA like it used to be, and bus and have the rivalries and get and guess what? Those teams, guys, you know, when North Dakota goes to Miami of Ohio, the Miami of Ohio fans, they're like, whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But when Western goes there or Bowling Green goes there, you know, that's a rivalry. And, you know, I just, it's my feelings.
And that's why we have you on the show.
Yeah. Well, for good or bad. I don't know. Whatever.
And it's, yes, it's unfortunate because, you know, I could see a league, you know, with all the Minnesota schools, North Dakota, Wisconsin, that would be quite the league. I mean, that's an 18 team league right there.
It'd be unbelievable.
But we're going to be stuck with the Big Ten. And good or bad, you know, we'll see how long. Maybe it doesn't last. Maybe someday down the road, the NCAA says, hey, we need to think about this in a different way. We'll have to wait and see. But, you know, speaking of Big Ten, do you think the ASU is a little test this year with them playing all these non-conference games? You think they would be a good add to the Big Ten if they can't get a school like Northwestern or Illinois added?
ASU would be a good fit for the Big Ten network.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Vigs, I think they'd be good for.
That's what I think.
For those of us who used to travel.
I think, you know, that's the footprint. That's the footprint right there, you know. And you got teams in the West. You've got Denver. You've got Colorado College. You've got Air Force. You've got Arizona State. You got Huntsville, not that far away, who, by the way, is, you know, going to need a league next year. You know, I just think that we could do things a little bit smarter and do it right. But to answer your question, yeah, I think ASU will be part of the Big Ten next year. Yeah. I think a deal is probably already in place. Their building is going to be done, and you know, and like I said, they fit the market, and you know, Buddy Powers has built a pretty good program, so why not?
Vigs, let's take the podcast road. Let's head to Arizona.
Yeah, I would like to go to Arizona once they get their new rink built.
Yep.
Maybe they can put it around the Waste Management Open. Maybe we can get some golfing rounds at TPC Scottsdale on the docket. We can do a podcast from there. I'd like that.
I'll join you. That'll be my next podcast.
Yeah, that sounds good. But
right.
I think it might just be a temporary fit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen with college athletics after this pandemic, how schools meet their budgets and figure things out. You know, hockey is a very regional sport. It's difficult to pour money into it if it doesn't work. I hope ASU is successful with their new building that they got approved last month, and we'll see.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about the upcoming games, guys. You know, Minnesota's doing their, you know, Michigan trip this week. It's, you know, obviously these games are bunched together, but heading into Monterey, playing a little Michigan State here, Vigs. Finally playing on a normal rink, standard rink. Things are changing there. I think they've been playing in past seasons pretty good on these size rinks. But still, it's Michigan State. We kind of up and down with them. I mean, I would say the last 25 years, it's been really just very steady up and down with Michigan State.
Yeah, with them, they've had that KHL line. Well, it seems like for a while, and that was something that Minnesota knew it was coming and still couldn't stop. And I think part of that was the defensemen that Minnesota had weren't as capable, hockey IQ to see them come on the ice, play smarter, keep them from getting dangerous scoring chances. And it just would bite them every time. I think this team has played well the last couple of years on NHL size rinks. This will be their first opportunity this year, but it's a roster that's built for a smaller rink game. They've got size, they've got great transition. It should translate to Munn Arena. I think the one thing about this matchup is, they're not playing an inexperienced team. Michigan State has a lot of depth down the middle. It's going to be a tough matchup for them, and it's not a game that they can sleep through because Minnesota's been really good so far, not making critical mistakes at the blue lines, not making critical mistakes on the breakout. It's going to be dialed up a little bit this weekend.
That's the key, isn't it, Pat? I mean, we've had defensemen that just really haven't been able to move the puck and get out of trouble, and now they do. So I think that really helps on a weekend like this.
Well, I tell you, when again, and I haven't even mentioned Kester yet, who's been really, really good also. But when you're playing Minnesota, and Danton Cole is a good coach, but when you're playing Minnesota, you better be disciplined defensively, because what Minnesota, Viggs, well, both you guys watched. Minnesota's defensemen are not afraid to jump up in the play. They're not afraid to take it down low. I think they've been disciplined with their forwards covering for the D. But I tell you what, when Faber or Lacombe, mostly Lacombe and Johnson, when they beat that first guy, they beat that first defender in the offensive zone, then you can get scrambled eggs, defensively. And if you start running around, that's where Minnesota can hurt you. So again, I think the key will be, Minnesota's defense and how they get the puck out, how they handle the puck. And if they do, I think they'll be in good shape.
Viggs, what does Michigan State need to do?
Well, I think they need to play a boring game. I think they're going to need to slow the game down. I think they're going to need to clog the neutral zone. I think this is a team that just can't take too many chances. They're going to need to rely on maybe a face-off play to create some traffic and a quick goal that way. They've been really good in the draw too. And it's a team that maybe if they can get their power play going, maybe that's a special teams battle that they can win. Minnesota's power play has had a couple flashes where you're going, okay, I see what's there, and the potential to have guys be creative, stress the killers by changing positions, and move the puck quickly. I think we saw Scott Reedy have a wide open chance because the penalty kill got so confused working against the Gophers that they lost their shape. But Michigan State's very structured. I think that's a game that they would want to play.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the neutral zone, and that's where Minnesota, I think, has the ability. Well, I'll put it this way: they're so much better on the back end this year that they don't have to get it and just dump it, or get over their own blue line and get rid of the puck right away. They have guys who can skate the puck, and you can break up that neutral zone when you got four guys coming at you, right? And then all of a sudden, I mean, you notice, I point out to Frank during the game, I'm like, look at Ohio State's D, one of, I don't care who's carrying the puck, either a forward or a D, but they're coming at you with speed. You can't stand up. You gotta back up a little bit. And that's where Minnesota created more room for each other, for themselves. And, I think that could be another big key going into the weekend.
But Pat, one thing I'll also say is that I've seen that, when they don't have the option and they do dump the puck in, that the forecheckers are doing a much better job this season getting on that defenseman and causing havoc.
Yeah.
This is something they have really improved on this season.
Well, how many times last year, guys, did we see them dump the puck in, right? And they dump it in a corner, and there'd be no one there'd be no one going there, and you're like, okay, why did you throw it there? Did you just dump it to dump it, or was there a purpose? And you give the opposing team the time to get back, take a look, make a pass, and boom, they'd be out of the zone. And you're like, well, another missed opportunity to get a forecheck going. And that's a great point you bring up, because it's been much better this year.
Viggs, your thoughts? We have talked about this before, but I just love the forecheck game Minnesota's putting on this year.
Yeah, and I think we've seen it a couple games where the first couple shifts, the puck placement on dumps hasn't been perfect. And they do throw it into a spot where there's no forechecker. And it almost seems like they figure it out on the bench, or the guys just get in the flow of the game and then they get on it. And teams look slow when they don't anticipate the play.
Right.
When you can anticipate where the puck's going to be and you're all on the same page, you look faster. And I think that's what's happening with this year's team, is they look faster because they're anticipating, they know where to put the puck and where to go. And the thing with the defenseman, we always talk about that good first pass.
Yes.
Well, right now, they make the first pass and they follow it to join the rush. And when you can transition quickly like that, and like Pat was saying, if you can get 4-on-3 attacking the blue line, you're going to be way more successful, because one of your players out of those 4 can go get the puck if you have to dump it. Or if a defender loses his footing, loses his gap, you've got 2-on-1 opportunities to attack the blue line. And that's what we're seeing.
And how many times this year, guys, have we seen, and now it's early, it's only 4 games, and I really try to keep an eye on it, was, are we getting outmanned? Is it 2 to our 1? Is it 3 to our 2? And that hasn't happened a lot, and if you have bodies, more often than not, you give yourself a chance to come up with the puck. And I think Minnesota's done a really good job in that area also.
And to that same point though, Pat, the times I have seen like a defenseman outmanned, he's taken that that extra half second, thought about it, what he's going to do, and makes a smart play.
Yeah.
Before, you'd see him just throw it off the glass, or it'd be a turnover, something like that. It seems like, when we do put ourselves in a bad situation, they're making the right decisions. Now we just need to see them continue that, and with tougher teams. But all around, it just seems like everyone's just doing smarter things. Better back in the D, making the pass out of the zone, up the zone, like Vig said. Now making a great pass, following the play up. The forecheck everything is just that level up. But now we just need to keep doing that, because we've seen flashes of this in the past couple of years, Vigs. We just need to continue and keep growing and keep getting better.
Well, I think the difference is we saw it against 2 quality coach Big Ten teams.
Yeah,
It wasn't against like a Niagara. No offense to Niagara, they're a tough program at times, but it's not the same. This is a team where when you're facing well-coached Penn State and Ohio State teams and you show this, that's the next level. And I think Penn State and Ohio State were teams that outmanned Minnesota the past couple of years. You go into a fight with 3 players against 5. It wasn't a fair fight. You can't win that way. I definitely see what Pat's seeing on the ice as well.
All right, let's get your predictions, guys. Vigs, Michigan State on the road.
I think we're going to see one of these games go into OT. I think they're going to try to slow it down. We've seen Minnesota struggle a little bit with scoring goals. It isn't coming as easily as maybe their possession has been, what you'd expect. So I think we're going to see a tight, 1-1 type game going to overtime. And then who knows? I wouldn't want to downplay the impact losing McManus for this series will have, because he's a guy who can create points. And I think maybe we're still tentative there. So I think Michigan steals a OT game, maybe gets the extra point.
So you're
thinking so negative. You're so negative. I'm never talking
pragmatic,
to you again.
Pat. Pragmatic.
And by the way,
you can't sweep every weekend on the road.
Here's what I'm telling you. All right. They will sweep Michigan State.
Boom.
And I'm not even going to give you a prediction on the Michigan series because it's not a fair series. We're going to be seeing two different teams than what we would normally see.
Yeah.
Michigan has got 5 guys that won't be playing, and Minnesota won't have their top 3D. So,
and you never know with COVID too. You could have another couple extra players out here and there.
You really could. So I'm not even going to handicap that one, but mark it down, Vigo. You got it.
6 points.
I'd like to recall from last week when we had Cappy on the podcast that you two did predict kind of a split. I did predict a sweep, and they did sweep. So this week I'm going to do it again. Sweep.
Yeah.
I'm just going. Right. I'm with Pat on this one. I'm not always Mr.
You
Positivity.
should be. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. I'm disappointed.
What do they say? The hardest thing to do in college hockey is sweep. What's the even harder thing to do? Sweep on the road. Hard to sweep on the road.
And not this season though.
But there's nothing better than sweeping on the road. So they get the first one. Huh?
Yeah, that Michigan series, I have no idea what to think. Michigan's probably losing their entire power play unit to the World Junior. So
yeah, right.
And we're gonna see an interesting defensive group out there. Robbie Stucker hasn't played yet. He'll be back and available for the lineup. Maybe we'll see Carl Fish, Rossini, Denman. Guys who haven't really had an opportunity. They're going to get an opportunity against a skilled team, and we'll see what happens.
And I think that's good. Because in the crazy year that we have, you're going to need depth. You're going to throw guys out there in tough situations. It only helps your team down the road because you don't win the national championship now.
But I do think Stodiker and Castor probably play about 30 minutes.
Good chance.
They're young. Yeah. They're fine.
So roll 6D against Michigan State if you can.
Right.
They're fine. Well, Pat, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. It's been
great.
Thanks
for having me. God, I was wondering when I was going to get the call, but whatever. I get it.
We needed the video guys, too. When we incorporated the video this year, and I think it's just better when we see you as well. We can see all your animation.
Anytime you need me, call me. I'm good to go. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's great that you're on. And for those of you watching live, we're gonna have some overtime up next. So this isn't over. But for those of you listening live, we'll be back on Sunday with the next podcast. We'll recap this weekend, and we're gonna have Wally Shaver.
It won't be as fun.
No, well, I think Wally's gonna bring a lot today. We just gotta hope that Wally doesn't swear too much. He might. Bring it on though.
Don't forget to ask him.
Oh, the
parking
definitely
lot debacle. All right.
Yeah. So for those of you listening live, we're coming right back here with a bit of overtime. For the rest of you, we'll hear you back on Sunday, or you'll hear us. That's it. That's it for us.
All right.
Pat and